So, in all of the straight from the headline stories I've been talking about the last couple weeks, one of the things that's been a recurring theme has been if you are a influencer, somebody in the media, somebody with fame of any kind, you are under a microscope with everything that you do. Really, in this day and age, if anybody has an online presence, be they celebrity or not, any of us lay people as well, we're under the microscope too. So you better be prepared to back up what you say, what you put out in video form, what you put out in anything. Because, A, number one, nobody's asking you for your opinion. Nobody's demanding my opinion on any story. I want to put that out there because I think it might be entertaining for some. But that doesn't give me the ability to, if I say something really heinous or racist or homophobic, that doesn't protect me, and it shouldn't protect me just hiding behind free speech. You have the right to say anything that you want to, but you better be prepared for what can come with it. This story today is pretty bizarre. So today we're going to talk about some social media influencers in Canada. Yes, they have them too. Sasha Exeter, she runs the very successful website SoSasha.com, where it talks about her life as a single mom and entrepreneur, her life as a woman of color, and it has really taken off. She has quite the following on Instagram. And our other person is Jessica Mulroney. Now, I could just say this about her. She's Meghan Markle's best friend, and that would kind of be enough, right? She's responsible, though, for the look of Meghan Markle. She's responsible for the look of the royal wedding. She's the go-to wedding planner in Canada. She had a spot on Good Morning America. She had her own show on Canadian television. And she is also married to the son of the former Canadian Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney. So what started as a disagreement over a social media post by Sasha turned into Jessica threatening a lawsuit for libel. This got out of hand quickly. And the best person really to explain initially what happened is Sasha herself.
As much as I've been sharing my knowledge and my personal experiences as a Black female in today's society over the last few weeks, there's something pretty important that I have not yet opened up to you guys about. So I'm going to start by saying this. Very early on in this, I was very vocal about wanting my peers and folks with an online presence to speak up, stand up, and use their voice for good to help combat what's going on with this race war and what's happening to the Black community. I've been extremely mindful and cognizant with the way I communicate and my approach, making sure during these post sharing that I was never, not once, calling out anybody directly. Unfortunately though, one very prominent Canadian figure who used to be an acquaintance of mine named Jessica Mulroney took offense to a very generic call to action that I shared on my IG stories. And what happened next was a series of very problematic behavior and antics that ultimately resulted in her sending me a threat in writing last Wednesday, June the 3rd.
So as Sasha said there, she put out an Instagram story that called on people in the industry to show their support for Black Lives Matter, to do more than simply say nothing. She wanted them to say something, to show in action how they are going to further the cause. She did not call anybody out. It was a very generic post. But Jessica took great offense to it, reaching out to her and essentially thinking that she was pointing the finger directly at her. So arguments went back and forth amongst the two, which eventually led to the threat of a lawsuit for libel by Jessica. Here is where I have some major questions about the story, and then we're going to talk about the fallout. Why would there be a threat of a lawsuit? Now, one of the things that Sasha talks about Jessica doing was Jessica had said she would be talking to some of the brands that were working with Sasha. and that she would let them know essentially the kind of behavior that Sasha was exhibiting back to Jessica. Also, one of the things that is being talked about in the media right now about Jessica is that she thought that her friendship with Meghan Markle essentially could be used as a shield for this, that Meghan was her, like quote unquote, one black friend that she could point to. I still have questions. My gut is in those conversations that they got heated, and essentially what had to have been brought up at some point was Sasha talking about that, well, clearly I'm going to tell this story. And to me, that I would think that was when the threat had to come. It might not have. This is pure speculation on my part. It just doesn't make sense. I don't like your generic post. I feel like it was directed at me. I'm going to sue you. I think somewhere in there it was, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but clearly I'm going to have to talk about this. And she probably wouldn't have named Jessica's name. She'd probably just very, again, generically said, hey, I had just this, terrible conversation where a person attacked me because they thought I was talking about them. But there's something that really still seems fishy with the whole situation. So Sasha comes clean in her Instagram video. She talks about this situation, and the fallout has been pretty quick and pretty severe when it comes to Jessica Mulroney. Jessica's CTV show I Do Redo, which is about couples that are having to replan their wedding last minute, is gone from Canadian television and all streaming applications. Her stint on Good Morning America is done. ABC has severed all ties with her. Many brands such as Hudson Bay and others have said they will no longer work with Jessica. And of course, everybody was eagerly anticipating what was going to be Jessica's statement on the matter. Well, she went into full damage control. Her statement as follows: the events that have transpired over the last few days have made it clear that I have work to do. I realize more than ever how being a white, privileged woman has put me so far ahead of so many, and in particular, those in the black community. I also want to take a moment to clarify that I have no intention of pursuing any legal action. I was wrong, and for that I am truly sorry. I remain more committed than ever to support anti-racism efforts and will do everything in my power to right this wrong. So there has yet to be an official statement put out by Meghan's camp, although I would think the former Duchess of Sussex would have to come to some sort of conclusion, both from her feelings as a woman of color, possibly some support for her friend, and to Sasha's credit, she was pretty adamant about the fact that she was not accusing Jessica of racism. She did not feel that Jessica was racist. She simply felt that she was acting out of privilege. But I still think there's questions that a lot of us are going to have, is how this escalated so quickly from feeling like she was being called out to threatening to cancel Sasha and to sue her. Still very strange. So is this a case of simply an argument that went out of control? Jessica trying to save herself before she got canceled, as we're seeing play out right now? Or was it simply...
She is very well aware of her wealth, her perceived power, and privilege because of the color of her skin. And that, my friends, gave her the momentary confidence to come for my livelihood in writing. Textbook white privilege, really, in my personal opinion.